Tonight's speaker began diving in 1976. He's a PADI instructor as well as instructor trainer for SDI and the Handicapped Scuba Association. He was once a volunteer guide for blind downhill skiers, right? And after years of being inspired by the impact that skiing had on individuals with disabilities, he decided that scuba diving would be the perfect candidate to replicate that positive experience. Jim left a successful media career in '96 and began teaching adaptive scuba diving. 5 years later, he founded Diveheart, which is a volunteer organization focused on building confidence and independence in disabled children, adults, and veterans using adaptive scuba and scuba therapy. He's co-author of the Diveheart Adaptive Scuba Training Program, and through their efforts has led the way in developing and helping to pioneer adaptive scuba training, research, rehabilitation, education, and promotion around the world. So joining us tonight from Downers Grove, Illinois, please join me in welcoming Jim Elliott.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. I have with me Tina Marie Hernandez, our Diveheart Executive Director. I like to say I started Diveheart, but she runs it. So, yeah, thank you very much. Great. It looks like a fun club, for sure. But yeah, we're all queued up. We're ready to share some stories. I mean, you kind of covered it. We started in 2001, and we do programs all over the world. Just got back from Malaysia, training instructors there, and you know, got another trip to Cozumel before the end of the year. But great stuff going on all the time. So if you'd like, we could start with a story and then start taking questions. And I think you could see then really how this touches people with disabilities, and you know, and maybe go from there. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Super. We'll queue up. You want to do it? You want to drive? Tina Marie's technical support.
What do you want to share first?
Let's do Tracy.
Okay, so you're gonna do a little. Or she
No,
herself?
I think let's watch this, and it speaks for itself a lot. So let's go ahead and share this story.
All right. Are you ready for me to press play?
Yes.
All right.
Awesome.
My name's Tracy. I'm an adaptive diver, and I have ALS. I joined the Navy right out of high school. There weren't a lot of women on ships at the time. I was the only girl in my class, which is kind of how it was for me throughout my Navy career. There weren't a lot of gals. I was a communications officer and electronics officer. I used to regard myself as kind of fierce, you know, not scary fierce. I was never that. But like bold, living life boldly. I identified as a scuba diver. That's who I was. So when the disease hit, it's like, it's not just I'm gonna lose my ability to walk, use my hands, speak. It's I'm not gonna be the same person anymore. It was gonna take away my identity. Because who am I? I'm a diver, and I'm bold, you know, fierce. And I thought, I don't want to give up my identity yet. I don't have to. And I started Googling, you know. I was a diver all this time. I didn't know about adaptive diving, but I finally got the right search words and happened upon Diveheart. And I reached out to him. I said, hey, look, you know, I used to dive. I want to dive again, but I can't really walk. And I thought, you know, all I really need is help getting on and off the boat. I get in the water, I'll be fine. And I got down there and I realized, gosh, I kind of need more than just on and off the boat. People, it's not intentional, but there's an unconscious bias that I think most of us carry. When we see someone who's disabled, and with speech it's even worse, they tend to maybe not think the same of them, a little bit less. It's almost like they kind of forget I'm a human sometimes, you know. But with this team, they weren't like that. They were talking to me one-on-one, and they would tease me, which was awesome. You know, making fun of me. Yes, please, I'm one of you, dive buddies, you know. And so it was not only this experience of diving, but also the camaraderie and belonging. Getting in the water is so liberating, because when I'm down there, I no longer am worried about hurting myself, falling, or all that clumsiness, and I'm free. I'm free. I feel like when I'm diving, I'm flying. You know, there's nothing to pull me down, and I can breathe in and out to just where I am in the water column. I am in control of that, and it just feels so good. When I'm down there, it's just unadulterated joy that I feel in that moment. There's a lot of physical adaptations, obviously. I dive with a full face mask because if I get a spasm, I need to be able to breathe through my nose. My feet don't work so great, so I use hand paddles, you know, work around those things. And there's mental adaptations too. I was always very independent underwater. I still am to an extent, but I realized it's okay to trust a little and give up a little bit of that so that they can help me where I needed to be successful and overcome this challenge, this diving challenge. They imagine the possibilities slogan. On its face, it's you can dive, everyone can dive. And for a lot of people who didn't think they could, that is true. It's more than that for me. When I go by people on the street in my wheelchair with my wetsuit, I feel fierce. I feel empowered. I feel strong. I feel that everything is a little bit more attainable.
All right. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Awesome. So that was Tracy, you know, one of our divers. We met her years ago, and she came to us with a walker when her ALS was new, and then she came. First year was a cane, then a walker, and then this year she was full face mask with in a wheelchair.
A power chair.
Power chair, yeah. So it doesn't keep her from diving, but we just need to adapt a little bit to accommodate her. So
yeah, it's she, you know, that's why we have the program we do. We have a program that we've built that will accommodate someone that might be needing more assistance as time goes on, but we also work in reverse. As people come to us, if they get to be better divers, we're able to work with them to become more independent. So it goes both ways. And you know, Tracy's, we just love to keep her diving for as long as possible.
yeah, the adaptive training program that we created and launched in 2014 really is based on team diving. So a team that would require someone who like had a full face mask like Tracy needs to have an advanced adaptive dive buddy, which is a certification level that we created at Diveheart for maybe a rescue diver or a dive master or up. and then another adaptive diver, and then a support diver. So she would have 3 people in her team in addition to herself. And so that we found that is pretty safe when we
Right.
have the right team with people.
And as the people that, like, so Tracy, she is in charge of her team for as much as she can be. She talks with them, they plan their dives together, they go down and they execute their dives together. But she and any other adaptive diver is very much part of their team. We work with physical and cognitive disabilities. So sometimes, say, with a person that might have a cognitive disability or challenges, we work with them as much as possible. They still know that they're part of the team, but there might be decisions that maybe they rely on their dive buddies to help them make.
Yeah, what's cool is we created some tools that didn't exist before in adaptive scuba. And I know earlier Chris mentioned I was with the Handicapped Scuba Association, and when we launched our program, I really wanted to take the words handicapped and disabled kind of out of describing a diver, and we felt adaptive was actually more appropriate. So we went to adaptive diver, and basically we developed these tools. One is we call it an NSA evaluation, where the diver with the disability like watches, for example, all the PADI videos or SDI videos or whatever, and they see what needs to be done for a giant stride entry, for example. Well, maybe they're a wheelchair user and they can't do a giant stride. So what they do is they kind of do a self-assessment, and they figure out, they get a score at the end of it, and they go, well, I saw the videos and here's the way it's done and here's what I think I can do. And we get an idea when the adaptive diver does that, or the candidate, of exactly what they think they can or can't do. And that really helps the instructor when they're actually doing the training. And then at the end of the training, the instructor does another NSA, needed scuba assistance evaluation. And that really determines the type of certification that the diver gets. Do they need 2 buddies? Do they need 3 buddies? If they only need 1 buddy, they don't need Diveheart. So
Well, that's not true.
for the most part. But are there any questions on, does anybody know anybody with ALS? I mean, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, if you have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll try to address them as we go on. We also work with individuals that have autism, for example. We helped facilitate the first study in the country based on autism and scuba therapy, and that was with Midwestern University here in Downers Grove, where we're based in the Chicagoland area. So what we'd like to do is share something, Christina's story, and that's powerful. This year, her story was nominated for an award, and the person who's created all these stories for us is David Marsh, and David is a filmmaker. We met. He's from Los Angeles, and he did a story on us in 2021 called "Adapting to Dive." It was a documentary. Has anybody seen that? Anybody seen it today?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. It's won 10 International Film Festival awards in the last year or so. So so we kept him on for 6 more trips. He just got back from Malaysia with me. So,
Yeah.
but
Hey, and don't worry, people online, I can see the chat. So if you have questions, please feel free to write those in as well. But let me share Christina's story now. We're going to go back to sharing our screen.
Awesome.
I was born in Russia. I was adopted when I was 2.5. I was very sick, apparently. I was diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome, but I was lucky enough to be adopted by, well, 2 people, one of them being a nurse and the other just being a great dad overall. I was diagnosed with autism, Asperger's, whatever you want to call it. And that did present quite a few difficulties in school. I will say I was never very good at math, but I always excelled at things like natural world-based education. I think that's part of what attracted me to diving, was the wildlife and the reefs. The way I process information, sometimes I can go on a tangent and slither like an idiot sometimes if I get too worked up. But diving has helped with that. It helps you focus on your breathing. It's quiet, it's not overly bright. No one's saying, hey, go do this, or hey, can you get me that? Or the fish don't expect you to feed them. It's just a nice, relaxing way to get away from the surface world, which, quite frankly, I don't really fit into. I found Diveheart a few years ago, and I took to it like a fish to water, no pun intended. I always had trouble kind of finding my place, and I was always that kind of weird kid. And I tell you what, kids are cruel. They are cruel. They don't understand differences, and they see this goofy kid with these differences from them, and they just kind of, they're cruel. Being in Diveheart, I feel like I've finally found my place. I found people I fit in with, people I connect with, people who understand me, people I just feel comfortable around.
This is our first dive trip. We're in Cozumel, and we have seen our daughter grow immensely. I can't even put words to it. My husband and I look at each other and we're like, we can't believe it. She's just, and the people that help her are telling her how she is just becoming independent, doing her diving. She is a strong diver.
Right.
She's independent in the water, even though she has a dive buddy always with her, right next to her, and she's doing an amazing job. But then one of the important things that are taking away from this is that she now has people with common interests. Chris has not always had a lot of friends. It's been wonderful to see how everyone seeks out Chris and wants to be friends with her. And on the boat, all the camaraderie. When they see each other within the resort and out by the pool, everyone is reaching out to one another and being kind and welcoming and inclusive. That's a key part, inclusive, because she's not had that. And she's 22, she's not had inclusion.
This is her tribe. I mean, these are people that she feels very comfortable being around, and it's all for one and one for all. It's just been a delight for us to watch that. I think on Monday, I walked her down and walked her down for breakfast, got her all squared away, and she looked at me and she says, you could leave now if you want.
And I
said, who are you?
Yes, who are you?
And I said, well, okay. And, I kind of, walked away. And
the next day, Tuesday, alarm went off.
Yeah.
And she's
all I had to do then was just get her up.
Yeah.
Once she was awake, she took it from there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
amazing.
That sounds like very trivial to a lot of people, but that's huge for her.
That is huge for her. She remembered, her drinks. She remembered her her locker key, her room key. She was able. all these things that we take for granted every day that she can't do, or she can't do well, and she's doing them. And today, the alarm went off. Yeah, it was okay, see ya. And she had all her stuff. And the night before, get this, she started getting ready for the next morning, preparing for the next morning. We're like, who's this girl? We love this. Oh my God.
This has been better than any therapy she's ever had.
Yes.
No question.
Yes.
A lot of people don't understand us. Basically, they see autism as just one thing. They don't see it as a spectrum. They hear autism and they think, oh, she's so-and-so, or she's this. But if you have a different view of the world, then You should check out Diveheart. It accepts you for you. It doesn't judge you. And I've definitely found my group within Diveheart.
Awesome. So
That's our friend Chris.
that's yeah, she's really something. Anybody know people with autism?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of an epidemic out there. But we've had people who are in our group that are nonverbal, but we communicate with them. It might not be the standard sign language that they use, but it's something that they understand with their parents or their caregivers, and it really lets them be part of the group, which is kind of nice. And
Yeah. So we have a question from the online group. It says, anyone ever dive that is a quadriplegic? We actually have many people that dive with us that have quadriplegia. Some with a little bit more movement than others, but that come to trips over and over again, do our pool programs over and over again. They love it. We love having them. Most obviously need a team that will assist them, a three-person team. Although Chris Block dives with the standard kit, right? He doesn't use a full
Right.
face mask.
correct.
So
Correct.
some use full face masks, some use the standard diving equipment. We just help them with everything that they might need.
Yeah, last year we had an interesting situation come up. A producer did a documentary on us for PBS years ago, and he came up and he said, "Tom," he said, "Jim, this is Tom from Turning Point." He said, "I'm with a TV show now, and we have it's kind of a reality show. We'd like you to be part of it. We have a gentleman who is a motivational speaker, national motivational speaker, and he's also a quadriplegic. And on the top of his bucket list is to do a shark dive." So he says to me, he said, "What we'd like you to do, Jim, is take Nate, this quadriplegic gentleman, on a shark dive off of the Gulf Coast in Tampa." And I said, "I don't think so." I said, like a bull shark will eat your face before you even know it's there. I said, "Let me call Christina Zanato, who is one of my adaptive instructor students from years ago." And we went to the Bahamas, and she's probably one of the top shark professionals in the world, as far as I know. So I said, "I'll take care of the quadriplegic. You take care of the sharks." And she said, "You're on." And we had an incredible dive, but we had put Nate in a full face mask. Ocean Reef provided us with 4 full face masks with comm units, and then the boat had a microphone. So there was 3 cameras on the boat filming the wife who was watching her husband go down this line to a shark dive. And then we had Nate, and I was wired, and Tina, and the host of the TV show we all had comm units. And so Nate did most of the talking, though, Nate and the host. And it was really quite an experience. Chris, I haven't sent you that, I don't think. It's not on our YouTube channel, where we have a lot of great stuff. The stuff we're playing for you, by the way, is on Diveheart YouTube. And you can click on playlist, and you can watch all the medical stories, all the military stories, all the documentaries, and the major features, these symposiums. We've done 11 years of adaptive scuba symposiums. So there's a lot of cool stuff on YouTube that you can watch and share with others. But I'll send you the TV show, Chris, so you can share that with everyone there. I think they'll get a kick out of it.
Yeah, the best part with Nate was he liked the shark dive, but he's like, I had to stay still too much. He goes, next time I want to go on a dive, a real dive. So that's, you know, he fell in love with being underwater. So we have another question. Are there differences in the different adaptive dive agencies? And if yes, how is Diveheart different? So we do feel like there's a lot of similarities. We believe that anyone who can get someone with a disability under the water safely, we're all for it, because goodness knows there's way more people that need this experience than we could ever give individually. So we're all for that. But as far as our training programs go and how we prepare those who assist people in the water who have disabilities, we feel we are different. We do rely a lot on experience. So we'll train you as a buddy. You need, 20 dives under your belt. The big deal I think that we're trying to achieve with new buddies is we want you to have good buoyancy, because if you're going to help someone else with their buoyancy, you need to have good buoyancy, right? So we're hoping that after 20-ish dives, you're hopefully working on that. We all know that there's a spectrum there, but anyway. But then after that, to do our upper levels, our advanced buddy, and for our instructors and in our instructor trainers, what we emphasize there is we want you to have experience, hands-on experience with adaptive divers. And that is one of the biggest differences between our agency and other adaptive agencies. A lot of those agencies just train you and say, here's your card, good luck, go get them. And it's very intimidating for a lot of people at first who are going to work with someone with a disability to go out there and work with them. They get intimidated, and then they don't use their certification. So that's why we encourage people to come on our trips so that they can get comfortable, they can see people who have been seasoned, they can meet divers. The adaptive divers help them learn how to work with them, how to become more confident as a buddy. Not just about making our adaptive divers more confident, we're making our buddies more confident. So that's my take on it. Jim?
Yeah, what prompted us to really create our program, one of the reasons we did it was I was the #1 instructor trainer in the world for the Handicapped Scuba Association. And after training like 1,000 instructors around the world, I'm like, why are most of these people not doing anything with their certification? And it boiled down to what Tina Marie said: it's confidence and it's experience. So what we did when we created a program, we baked that right into our training. So we do a lot of trips, and it's not for the sake of just doing a trip. It's inviting 5 or 6 adaptive divers on the trip, and then having maybe a half a dozen instructors on the trip who need to get those experiences. So yeah, we could do empathy training all day long and give you a card, which I did when I was with HSA, where I'd say, oh, you're blind, you're a para, you're a quad, here's your card, go get them, Tiger. And you may never have met somebody with a disability, and you're like paralyzed then. I mean, I can't tell you how many groups around the country, dive clubs and organizations where they just don't do anything with it. And I just said, we got to build this into what we do. So when we go to Cozumel, for example, in December, we'll have 40 people with us. We'll have 2 boats. We'll have, I think, 8 or 9 individuals with disabilities, 5 wheelchair users, and we'll have an instructor trainer and instructor examiner on each boat, and they'll be making sure the training's going on the way it's supposed to. And what's cool is by the end of the week, you've had breakfast, lunch, and dinner with somebody with different disabilities. You're talking to somebody with autism for breakfast, and somebody with a spinal cord injury for lunch, and then ALS for dinner. And then you go to the hot tub and have a beer with somebody who has got a traumatic brain injury, right? And so you get to know these people and their stories, and that really, really helps our buddies and our instructors understand what it takes. It's a whole dynamic. It's a culture. We make sure we go to dive operators who we've trained, who are empathetic and know what's going on, so that the boat captains and the sailors and the people at the resort are all part of a team that helps serve these individuals with all types of different disabilities. And by the end of it, it's designed so that you get your 30 experiences that you need. Because if you don't get them, like Rainbow Reef down in Key Largo is a great example. They would run you through a lot of the empathy stuff, Diveheart empathy stuff, but then they'd say, now you got to go get your experiences. Well, then you go back to Minnesota or someplace, and it's like, well, where am I going to get these experiences, right? So we decided to build them right into the trips that we do. And so we do 3 or 4 trips to Cozumel a year. We did 2 weeks in Grenada this year. So we just kind of try to create these opportunities. And sometimes if we don't host a trip, we'll send one of our instructor trainers on a trip with another group. For example, if your club wanted to do something, we could send an instructor trainer along, get the people that want to get trained up. So, but what's cool is, and I started doing this in '97, and I couldn't find anybody doing it really basically, and finally, eventually found the Handicapped Scuba Association, and but now Patty even has a adaptive techniques program. And I just talked to Drew Richardson, the CEO of Patty, this week, and I thanked him and I said, Drew, what you've done is, you've created a lot of awareness. Now instructors all over the world who have the heart for this, that want to try to help people with disabilities, are going to be more aware of what's going on. And the bottom line is, it's Patty till it's not. So basically, Drew will be the first one to say this, take them as far as you can in Patty, and if you can't give them a Patty certification, then hand them off to Diveheart. And so that's kind of what we're seeing happen. In August, we had instructors from Utah come out, and they did the empathy training with one of our instructor trainers, and then they came to Cozumel to get their experiences. And they're going to do some wonderful stuff there. And a group from Southern California was on that trip doing the same stuff. So it's exciting. We're not trying to do the most training or the most certifications. We're just trying to really focus on safety and doing the best and giving people the experience they need to continue this in their communities. I'm a Rotarian. I've been a Lion, a Shriner, and I believe in service. I believe in community. And I believe when I leave a place that they should have enough, support in their community, whether it's the rehab hospital or the VA, along with these other service organizations that can help support the program there and
Right.
help it be sustainable.
I wanted to mention that I'm going to reference our last question, and then there's another one that came in, but we also accept and invite people from the other agencies, adaptive agencies, to come on trips. Everyone's welcome. And we help them get experiences as well. If they come experience, we just welcome them and have them be part of the team. So it's not, Diveheart isn't about only Diveheart people. We understand that we want to have this across the world. We want to have people working with people with disabilities so they get that experience. So that's always open. So one of the next question that came in is, do you have any buddies that are on the spectrum? I am 100% sure we do. I may not be able to list names, but I know that we also have people who have PTSD or buddies, and a lot of the veterans and things like that. So, and we even have people who are buddies that might have like an amputation. So it's about being able to do all the things that you need to do as a buddy and keeping it safe. Safety is our top priority. So if you can, if we feel and you feel comfortable that, we can make sure that not just you stay safe, but the people you're assisting in the water stay safe, that's the important thing.
Yeah. Do you want to play the Atsuko piece?
Yeah, sure. We have one more. Is that okay?
How are we on time?
On the last discussion before you go on. So talking about the other agencies, I know that adaptive scuba has really spread among all of the standard agencies, but you touched on it a little bit, but something that is really different with you and HSA, which you started with, is the fact that you can certify somebody that still requires one or two buddies. At least my understanding, the other agencies, even though they have the empathy training, the adaptive techniques to it, the diver still has to meet the exact same performance standard as every able-bodied diver that they're certifying. And the fact that you have that buddy system in place that allows them to still be fully certified with that support structure is different from what a lot of other adaptive programs are. Is that correct?
It's true. I believe HSA, and then I think SDI kind of copied off of that. They have certifications that you require a buddy. What is different, I guess you might need one or two sometimes. Is that true? You know better than I.
Yeah, there are there are groups that do the empathy training and they don't require experience. That's the big difference, I think. And we do a bunch of stuff. I guided and taught blind skiers for decades. My oldest daughter's blind, so we brought in some land clinic skills and scenarios that didn't exist in the industry. And so we are different in that way.
No, but
Some other groups do have like 2 or 3 buddy requirements, like SDI has scubility. Again, their instructors may never have met somebody with a disability, but they're part of a team. So the team concept is out there. And Patty most recently again launched this adaptive techniques group, but they basically just say, hey, if you we'll try to adapt to a certain degree, but they're not having 2 or 3 people on a team.
Right. With Patty's skills, they definitely need to do all the main scuba skills. What's the beauty of what Patty's done is they've given the word adaptive out there to be accepted by everybody, that people acknowledge that there are people, and we've been doing this, and this is what we argue all the time, that everybody's adapting, right? As you get older, you're adapting. And this was the big thing when we went with Mayo Clinic doctors in May to Cozumel. We presented with them, but the theme of their conference was keep divers diving. And there was a presentation on, hey, you're older. Guess what? It's not your fault you can't hear the dive briefing anymore. They aren't whispering. It's that, our hearing isn't as good as it was when we were younger. Or, you have to be more careful when you're on the boat because you don't want to slip and hurt yourself and things like that. So we believe we don't only keep divers diving, as in Tracy's story, but like with Christina, we actually created a diver who didn't think that they would be able to dive. And we do that with people with physical disabilities as well. So, it was kind of a fun thing to do with Mayo, and we're going to go back next year. We spoke to them this year about physical disabilities and how we work with them. And next year, we're going to be talking about cognitive disabilities and how we work with that, and some of the tips and tricks and, lessons that we've learned in working with people.
Did that answer your question, Chris?
Yes, thank you.
Good. Yeah. We always thought this was a therapy. At least I did when I started. And the first thing I did is I went to a university medical center in the Chicago area and said to the head of physical therapy, guys, the thrill for me is when I take somebody in a wheelchair who's never been in the water before, and I teach them, how to think about using their breathing. And in 30 minutes, I can get them standing up, and they look down and they see themselves standing in a pool and they go, oh my God, I'm standing up for the first time since my injury. Or maybe if I have cerebral palsy, maybe it's the first time in my life. And, when I did the blind skiing, it takes me almost 2 days really to get somebody acclimated to the equipment and learning how to initiate turns and follow commands, where diving, the payback is so much faster between, learning how to breathe underwater for the first time, which is a whole got to wrap your head around it kind of thing, and then standing up. So this is like a double whammy. It's like, wow, I'm breathing underwater and I'm standing up and I'm not in my wheelchair. That's just a huge high for me.
And for some people who they might have some movement in their legs, but they definitely would not be able to walk on land without harnesses and everything else holding them up. We're able to give them that experience underwater, right? Because the water column is holding them up, but they're able to move their legs enough where you see them as if, they're walking underwater on the sandy bottom flat. And, we know that they're not going to be doing that up on land, but it still gives them a thrill. Some of the people are like, videotape me, because my friends are not going to believe that they've never seen me walk. And here they're able to capture that, even if it's underwater, on video, because they did do it. We had one person who wanted to go down and try it out, and she did. And then she came back up and she's like, I'm exhausted. She goes, I don't know if I'm going to be walking a lot underwater. I think I'll just stick to, the diving and moving through the water like we usually do. So it was funny.
How are we doing on time, Chris?
You're fine. Keep going.
All right, well, let's play another one. We got 2 other really good videos queued up that David Marsh did. Why don't we do Atsuko?
I became adopted diver right after my husband passed away, which was 9 years ago. I mean, I always wanted to scuba diving, watching TV or watching, some movie. It's beautiful. And of course, I didn't think that's dangerous. Just all I think is beautiful. Wow, I want to do that. But at the same time, I didn't know anybody, any disabled person who be adopted diver. So I didn't want to even say that to my desire or my dream, because I thought people think, what? You crazy? So my husband was a disabled person too, and I didn't even say anything about it to my husband. So my husband passed away, but at that time I was really crazy. Of course, I was really, really sad. I didn't even know how to react. I found his body. Then I thought he just fainted. So I called 911. Then emergency people came. Then I was ready to, because I thought he just fainted. So I thought, he gotta go to the hospital. So I have to follow the ambulance. So I was ready to get my car key or get a bag. So then I was waiting for, they come. So then one emergency person, the car came to say I'm sorry, he's gone. I even said, where did he go? He's right there. So I didn't know how to react. So I was like, when this young guy told me, well, basically he passed away. I was like, I was thinking should I cry or I shouldn't cry? I actually asked this person, emergency person, this kind of situation, what's the proper way to behave as a wife? Because I saw the movie or TV show, then usually they're they cry, right? But I couldn't do it. So I said I should cry, but I cannot, because too much shock. So then this nice young guy from the emergency, the ambulance, he said, whatever you want to do, there's no rule. But still, I couldn't, it was just too much shock. So I couldn't even cry.
Once everything's perfectly organized, I'll start working on my thesis.
Sorry about that.
In Asian culture, disabled or disability is big no-no. It's very prejudice, or it's not like in America. I learned that changing is good. We have to change, constantly change. Change is not backward, change is go forward. 3 years ago, my boyfriend, he moved to Mexico. I was planned to visit him maybe 2 or 3 times a year. So then we could dive. Basically, we were talking on the, phone or WhatsApp every single day. So June 12th, oh my God, the last conversation was about this trip. He was so excited. I was excited too, because on only a few months, that was early June, so early August now, so 2 months. So two months later, I could come here because he lives in the other side of Mexico, so we meet each other. We're supposed to meet each other. Every morning I open the WhatsApp, so then he said, good morning, or he sent some nice picture, so then I called midday. That was our daily schedule, daily thing. But June 13th, I didn't have any message. But I thought, he must be busy. About 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, there's some text message. So I thought that's him. When I answered, then I said hello. Then his son said hello. I said, oh. Then of course he told me that, somebody found his body. Just same thing, it's I had a same experience twice within 10 years. So why? I was thinking where Atsuko, again, the same thing. if you decide to not to go, you're a failure. Like that's I told that's myself. I didn't want to be a failure. I thought if I decide to not to go, it's gonna be sad. But if I decide to go, he would be happy in heaven. Why I like diving? Because under the water, everybody's disabled. Everybody's disabled. Because we couldn't talk, we couldn't run, everybody's slow motion, we was like a sign language. So again, I'm not like I'm not like deny my disability. I'm great. I'm disabled. I'm glad I'm not this non-disabled people. I think non-disabled people is so unhappy than me. So it's not like that. It's just like a same conditions, same equal level. It's so rare to feel that way above the water. I thought I came here for something fun. Of course it's fun, but it's just for like, oh, relax. But I realized this is not only fun. This is a training. I learned a lot. My attitude. So I realized, oh, I am not only the receiver. I'm a receiver as well as a giver. This program, not only the diving beautiful, creature, scene creature, not only that, like my feeling as a diver. So they kind of educated me so much, like my attitude to be what the diver needs. I gotta be independent. I mean, of course, I cannot be independent, physically. I need people's help, but at least that my mind I should be in charge. That's my philosophy. That's the independent living. And that's what I was doing on the land. But at some reason, under the water or in the boat, I said, oh, that's not my job. They do that. They're non-disabled. They do that. I'm just sitting here. Then they should have treated me nice. That was my attitude. But now, that's not the right attitude. Now I know what's Diveheart. Because when a few days ago, I didn't know that. Because this is not for vacation. Like this is a training. This is fun, but this is a more educational program. If I have to explain, I don't think people can get it. You've got to do it to have this experience. You have to get under the water. It's like now I'm not satisfied with a video, a movie, or like a book or a picture. That's nothing. So you've got to feel it.
So that was at Suko. Yeah, she was something, wasn't she? I love it when she goes, "This is training." Like that was very cool. Any questions on anything so far? We've got a veteran story in the queue that we could play, and these are not individuals with physical disabilities. They're veterans who've gone through Afghanistan and Iraq and got some baggage there, obviously with PTSD, but they're training to be buddies to help with their comrades who have it worse than they do. So if Chris, we have time for one more.
I think we have time for another story. Yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and do the guys.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah, they are.
This one?
Yeah.
One of the reasons I think that adaptive diving works so well for our veterans is that it's mission diving. It's mission driven. You plan a dive, you dive your plan, you have a goal with people. So sometimes it's like, let's get down and have you dive more independently. Let's get down and have you dive for a longer period of time. It's a mission driven type of diving, and that's why I think veterans love it.
My first tour, I was a combat medic with the Marine Corps, Got done with that and went to Navy dive school, became a Navy salvage diver and a diving medical technician. And throughout that experience, I was in and out of special operations teams as the medical support. The reality is that there's horror that you cannot unsee, and there's things that you need to get out of your brain, and diving seems to be the way to do that. Your breathing slows down, everything becomes peaceful. It really is a different way to experience life and to basically clear your head and get rid of all those bad thoughts. Now, I've been in and out of combat situations. I've seen my brothers and sisters who would benefit from this, and that's why I'm all in. That's why I'm sold.
Joined the military back in '02. I was a firefighter when 9/11 happened. I was diagnosed with PTSD, had a couple of deployments, and for me, diving brings that peace. It's, you know, for 30 minutes to an hour at a time, all that matters is diving, and I can focus on that. My back, my knees, all that stuff is fairly well torn up, so being in the water and being weightless, it helps take that pain away, so I feel a lot better underwater. I want to be able to share that world with other people.
The peace and calm of diving is basically, it heals the soul. This is stuff that combat veterans like myself will benefit from, and disabled vets can benefit from this. Everybody can benefit from this. And I see the joy that this is bringing to these people's lives. I see the difference that this is making. So I'm in, I'm all in, I'm sold.
I see what Diveheart is doing for the community, and I see what it can do for my brothers and sisters in my community. Everyone I talked to told me if I wanted to do adaptive diving stuff, go to Diveheart. What Diveheart is doing is phenomenal. Not only for the divers that need a hand, but it's truly warmed up my soul. And I think I've probably gotten about as much out of this trip as the divers have, and I think it's phenomenal, and I wish more people knew about the organization and knew how we could get involved to help. And if there's people out there that need help, there's organizations out there, you know, Diveheart, that we can get you in the water and we can go diving.
Anyone and everyone that supports and gets involved with this organization will have a smiling soul and feel better about themselves and better about life.
So that's just one of our veteran story. We actually have hundreds of these stories over the last 22 years we've been able to create. As a journalist and media guy, I realize that stories stick, and I think that it's important. You know, we could talk all day long and be a couple talking heads, but you know, when you hear it right from the individuals that are being affected by this, I think it means a lot. So I hope these stories have helped you be more aware of what we do and possibilities that are out there. We welcome any and all of you really to jump into one of our trips if you want to join us, and you can come and just observe and see. You know, you don't have to necessarily have hands-on, or you could come and do buddy training or instructor training, or you know, just hang out. So we're all inclusive. So hope you found this beneficial.
What's involved in the buddy training? How do we get involved in that if we want to?
So it's comprised of reading a manual, taking some online. It's about 4 hours of online, you know, material for you to review, and then it's a 4-day process of land clinics, shallow or confined water, and then open water. 1 day of open water dives.
Yeah, that's for the buddy training.
Well, and we train all levels at the same time.
Yeah, and then getting the experiences for advanced and for instructor. But the people that did our e-learning, our online training, are the same people that did Dan's online training and Patty's online training. So the videos and yeah. Can you hear me? Hello, Chris. Technical difficulties, right?
Yeah, we're back. I'm sorry, we missed part of that.
No, that's all right. I was just saying that the people that did our e-learning, our online training, are the same ones that did Patty and Dan's online training and e-learning. So it's really, there's no other videos and e-learning that exists, I don't think, in adaptive scuba that is as good as ours, I believe. I'm a little biased, but
And we're always trying to improve.
yeah.
Continuous improvement.
But yeah, you come and you'll become part of the Diveheart family and have new friends all over the world. And it's what divers are anyway, right? We're all kind of part of the same family. So we appreciate the opportunity to share this with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Absolutely amazing story. So the website is diveheart.org that you can find out more information about their mission and what they're doing. Is that also where we can find out information about joining in on some of your trips if we wanted to participate with that?
Yeah, if you look at the calendar, our trips are listed there. There's also a web page, like a page on our website that's for trips and training. And then you can always email, info@diveheart.org. If you have any questions, if you're not quite sure who to reach out to, that our person who either she or I will point you in the right direction.
Okay, great. Thank you again for joining us tonight. Thank you for adapting to my typo on our meeting date. In all of our correspondence, he was going to do this yesterday. Thank you for your flexibility and graciousness in still joining us tonight. I really appreciate that. The YouTube channel you said is where we can see more of those stories, and certainly pass along the link on the shark dive. We've had a long relationship with Christina, so to see her participation in the shark dives in the Bahamas as part of this program would be wonderful. So we'll share that too. They also touched on the documentary that David Marsh had done, Adapting to Dive. I'll put out on our Facebook page the link. You can rent that on Amazon Prime.
It's also free now on YouTube.
Yeah.
So yeah, woohoo!
We'll send you that link.
I'll find that link and post it. Absolutely amazing story. Not only do you see about what Diveheart is doing and more of these stories on their one of the trips to Cozumel, I think you were, but it's also about David's personal journey in what he gets from being engaged and participating with the program and the organization. Absolutely fantastic documentary, fantastic work that you guys are doing. So thank you very much for joining us. Let's give them another round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Our next meeting is October 11th. We'll be back here. We have Mike Berry joining us from Underwater Crime Scene Investigators. Some of you 4 or 5 years ago may have heard Mike talk. Has some fantastic stories, so not something that you're going to want to miss. Mike will be joining us in Charlottesville, so come on in and see it in person. And don't forget this Saturday, Diver Day. If you've not already called to get your name on the manifest, give us a call tomorrow, and we'll see you down there on Saturday. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week or next month. Bye-bye.